Good day everyone, we are the group 3 and we will be sharing to you our combined ideas about understanding feeds and feeding habits in aquaculture industry. So just a quick overview about the topic. So when we say understanding feeds and feeding habits in aquaculture, this involves the different aquaculture feeds, the feeding ratio, the feeding requirements, feeding behavior. So there are many considerations um, in this topic. So let us know about it further to fully understand what it is meant by understanding feeds and feeding habits in aquaculture industry. So fishes are known to be cold-blooded vertebrate aquatic animals, so they prefer to feed various types of food due to their different food and feeding habits. Among them, some feed on plant-based food and some like to eat animal-based foods, while many fish species take both plants and animals-based food, and they are known to be as omnivorous fish. So some fishes only prefer food as phytoplankton and zooplankton, and tinatawag silang plankton feeders. So yung mga important zooplankton are the various types of protozoans, crustaceans, rotifers, microscopic invertebrates, insect larvae, fish eggs, and many more. So let us now move on to the different aquaculture feeds. So fish food can be divided into two main types, the natural food and the supplementary food, or what we call the artificial food supplement. So let us talk about first the natural fish food. So these are found naturally in the pond. So some example of this are detritus, bacteria, plankton, worms, insects, snails, and aquatic plants. So their abundance is greatly affect and depend on the water quality. So as we all know, plankton is one of the most common natural fish food. And this plankton is one of the small flora and fauna whose movement capacity is so limited that they cannot cross the stream. Therefore, in most aquatic environments, movements of a large number of plankton species are controlled by wave and the water currents. So plankton are of two types, the phytoplankton and the zooplankton. So first, we have the phytoplankton. These are the autotrophic organisms that play a key role as the natural food of various fish species. Most of the phytoplankton are not seen by the naked eye because of their microscopic structure. Dahil nga maliliit sila, mahirap silang makita through the naked eye alone. So we need a device like a microscope so we can fully see their structure. But when they are present in a large number, they produce colored patches on the water surface because of the presence of chlorophyll and xanthophylls in their cells. So plankton form about 1% of the global biomass. So the water color becomes green to yellow or green to brown due to the presence of plankton. They are the ideal food for fish. So one example of this are the green algae and the blue-green algae. When we say green algae, they are a portion of very popular fish food. Their main feature is the presence of chlorophyll or green particles in the body. Next, we have blue-green algae. They are also plant-like microscopic organisms that grow in water bodies such as ponds, rivers, lakes, and streams. These blue-green algae do not normally visible in the water, but their populations can increase rapidly to form a large mass known as the algal bloom. So yung nagko-cause ng algal bloom is due to the temperature, especially when summer months. So mas madami yung presence nila. And due to this algal bloom, it can be toxic to fish. Kasi bumababa yung oxygen level ng pond kapag nagkakaroon ng algal bloom. So the next type of natural fish food that we have is the zooplankton. These zooplankton are one kind of heterotrophic organisms. So unlike sa phytoplankton, which are autotrophic organisms. So the zooplankton, they mainly feed on phytoplankton, but some are detritivorous. The zooplankton also are larger than phytoplankton. So they are the main food for the fish larvae and fingerlings. Among zooplankton, some types of lower animals are available in the reservoir known as rotifers. So, ito yung mga paboritong pagkain ng mga isda. So, natural fish food can be fed in both extensive and semi-extensive fish farming. Now, let us move on to the supplementary or artificial food for fish. So these are used for culture of different species of fish to increase production above that obtained with chemical fertilizers and organic manures. So kapag nag-cultivate or nag-culture tayo ng large quantities of fish, hindi na lang sila nakadepende sa natural food alone. They have to provide supplementary or artificial foods made from outsides. And besides, kapag kasi nagdepende na lang sila sa natural foods, dahil nga maraming isda yung kinoculture natin, pwedeng masira yung entire nutrition ng mga isda. So, in supplementary diet, the required amino acids should be at the appropriate level. So, hindi lang tayo basta-basta nagbibigay ng supplementary diet sa fish. So, meron tayong tinatawag na 10 amino acids which are called the essential amino acids. And this includes the arginine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, tryptophan, phenylalanine, threonine, and the valine. So, yung pagkain ng isda, it should have or it should contain 35% of protein levels. So, ang carbohydrates is also a very important nutrient components for fish. So, yung carbohydrate na ito, nag-generate ng energy sa katawan ng isda. So, maliban sa protein, carbohydrates, and fats, the body of the fish requires various nutrients such as minerals, katulad ng calcium, phosphorus, potassium, chloride, magnesium, zinc, copper, iodine, and iron. So, since we are on the modern science-based fish farming system today, so yung mga farming system is mainly dependent on the nutritious, artificial, or supplementary food. Kasi yung mga natural food na meron tayo sa water body is hindi na sufficient para sa rapid growth ng fish. So, therefore, for the rapid growth of fish and the significant increase in the yield of fish, so sa panahon ngayon, various nutrient rich artificial or supplementary feeds should be offered to the fish as the supplement of the natural food of fish. So, itong artificial or supplementary fish food is both used in semi-extensive, intensive, and extensive fish farming system. So, these two types of aquaculture feeds are both used in fish farming. So, nowadays, mas common na ang paggamit ng supplemental and artificial. So, fish cannot be fed by natural fish food alone because supplemental or artificial food, nami-meet niya yung right requirements for the nutrition of the fish. So, mas common na ang paggamit ng supplemental or artificial food.
Let us now talk about the types and size of feeds. The goal of every farmer is to reduce feeding costs for his fish and increase profit margins. If fish are underfed, growth rate is slowed down. If overfed, it reduces profits since feed is the highest operating expense in any farming business. First, we have to determine the size of the fish. This is the first step in determining how much feed your fish would consume. Every other factor is majorly dependent on the fish size. For example, a fish bigger in size eats larger size feed with lower protein content and at a lower frequency than smaller size fish. The size of the fish is gotten by taking a weight sample. Second, determining the right feed size is important as fish would find it hard to consume larger sized pellets. That is why we have types of feed. Number 1 is extruded or the floating or buoyant. Number 2 is the pressure pelleted or the sinking feed. Extruded or floating pellets are usually used in larger underlings, food fish, and brood fish. Pressure pelleted, developed for large bottom-feeding carnivorous fish. Here is the making process for extruded aqua feed. First, the grinding, mixing, extrusion, drying, coating, and cooking. For the pelleted feed, grinding, mixing, pelleting, drying, coating, and cooking. Aqua feed pellet is made of amount of ingredients in various proportions that are pelleted or extruded to the compound diet, which have good shapes, full gelatinization, and high level of protein. According to their buoyancy, fish feed can also be divided into sinking, slow sinking, and floating aqua feed. Floating aqua feed is suitable for tilapia feed, crucian feed, rainy day feed, weaver feed, and etc. And sinking aqua feed is for Siganos Gotatus feed, etc.
Hello, my name is Emery Feliz Sigerlan, and my topic is the factors affecting feeding requirements in aquaculture. Now in aquaculture, when we talk about feeding requirements, it is actually about the feed intake of the fish and the nutrient gained from them, which in turn determines the growth potential of any cultured species. For example, the gradual growth of this tilapia in this picture goes from fingerlings weighing almost zero to the full market size of adults weighing 200 grams and above. Profit is only gained when the full growth potential of any cultured species is achieved. Now, there are 5 factors that affect the feed requirements in aquaculture. They are the size of the fish, right pellet size, low wastage, correct quantity, and right feeding times. First, we have the right size of the fish, which is, as shown in this illustration, actually denotes the sizes of the fish when they are in the stages. For example, from eggs to embryos, to larvae, to fry, to fingerlings, and to adults. Larvae and fry require a higher amount of nutrients in their diet to promote their exponential growth needed to achieve the optimal weight and size. Fingerlings and adults, on the other hand, no longer need a boost in their nutrients but rather need a steady diet in order to achieve their optimal weight. Next, we have the right pellet size. For bigger fishes, you need bigger feeds in order to account for the size of their mouths. You wouldn't give a big pellet to a small fishes because they wouldn't be able to eat them. So, accounting for the right pellet size in feeding fishes is important. Next, we have low wastage. As we know, feeding can cause detrimental damages to the water quality of any aquaculture environment. So, ensuring that the feed is eaten whole is important in aquaculture. So, basically, we need to minimize the food that is left dissolved in the water, which can degrade the water quality. Next, we have the fourth, which is the correct quantity of feeds. This has a direct connection to the third, which was low wastage, because massive quantities of feeds in the water can still cause water degradation. So having the right amount is efficient and useful. Lastly, we have the fifth factor that affects the feeding requirements in aquaculture, which is the right feeding times. Feeding at only the right time when the fish are most active is the most efficient way in feeding fishes. This is because the highest likelihood that fishes will completely consume the given feed at that time. For example, tilapia are most active during the daytime because the high DO levels during that time. So the feeding times recommended for tilapia are 7 a.m., 12 a.m., and 3 a.m. because that is the hottest time in the day. That ends my presentation. Thank you.
Hi, I am Jennifer Mercado and I am here to discuss the feeding behavior and feeding habits of fishes. First, let's discuss the feeding behavior. It refers to the behaviors related to the obtaining and consuming of food of fishes. While feeding habit, it is the fish habitually eats during its life or at a particular stage of its development. To make it simple, the feeding habits and feeding behavior of fishes refers to the process of the search and indigestion of food of the fishes. This also includes the manner and the stimuli for feeding. Now let's discuss the modes of feeding. Fishes can be classified according to their food and diet, which refers to the materials they habitually eat. We have 5 examples: the herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, flankivores, and detrivores. Herbivores. These are the types of fishes that feed exclusively on the plant material. As per the given example, parrotfish is a herbivorous fish. There are colorful tropical creatures that spend about 90% of their day eating algae in the coral reefs. This almost constant eating performs the essential task of cleaning the reefs, which helps the corals stay healthy and thriving. Parrotfish are among the most important species as they are allowed to clean large amounts of microalgae. Carnivores. These are the types of fishes that feeds exclusively on animal matter. Carnivorous fish has a diet made of proteins including insects, crustaceans, and other small fishes. As for the given example, we have Asian arowana. The Asian arowana, also known as the dragonfish, is believed by the Chinese to bring good luck and prosperity due to its red color and coin-like scales. And in the wild, they are primarily live in the floodplains where they fed on insects and small fishes. Furthermore, arowanas feed on amphibians, arthropods, and small fishes. That's why it is categorized under the carnivorous species. Omnivores. These are the types of fishes that derives their nutrients from both plants and animals. The majority of the marine fishes are omnivorous, which means they need to eat both meat and plant-based foods. One easy options for omnivorous eaters is commercial fish foods, such as flakes or pellets. As for the given example, we have goldfish. In the wild, goldfish are omnivorous fishes. They eat plants, insects such as mosquito larvae, small crustaceans, and zooplankton. And during the captivity, goldfish are commonly fed with dried flakes or pellet food. Next is planktivores. These are the types of fishes that feed on plankton, microscopic plant, and other animal life in the water including bacteria. These species are also called foragers, include sunfish and perch. And as for the given example, we have a giant oceanic manta ray. Despite their large size, giant manta rays eat tiny plankton. They constantly swim along with their large mouths open, filtering plankton and other small food from the water. And lastly, we have the tretivores, those that fed on decaying matters. The tretivores are often invertebrates. Examples of these on the marine environments are the crustaceans such as crabs and lobsters, echinoderms such as sea stars or sea cucumbers. The tretivores are critical link in all ecosystems because they return all the materials stored in the food chains to the soil for reuse by producers. Without the tretivores, producers would soon run out of the materials they needed to make food, and an ecosystem will be tons of debris. We have classifications of feeding behavior of fishes according to its manner of feeding. We have 5 types: the grazers, predators, strainers, suckers, and parasites. Grazers. They are fed on bottom organisms or planktons that are selectively consumed. Some grazers fed on algae. The actual taking of food is by bites while browsing continuously. As we have, the given example is the bluegill and parrotfish. Many of the parrotfish are algal grazers. It means they bite while browsing continuously. Predators. These are the fishes that fed on microscopic animals. They may either be constantly on the move, hunting or pursuing their prey, or maybe they are on the way to catch their prey or to stray into their territory. Some predators fed upon small fishes or insects found or near the water surface. Predators mainly use vision to hunt for prey, although sharks, eels, and other predatory fishes that fed at night may only rely on their smell, taste, and lateral line senses to locate their prey. Predatory fish are fish that prey upon other animals or fishes. Some predatory fishes include perch and salmon. Strainers are those which filter organisms, mainly diatoms and crustaceans, from the water. These species swim through the rich plankton beds, filter the water, and swallow. Strainers normally have numerous, fine, and elongated gill rakers. Plankton filtration and swallowing illustrates the feeding behavior of the gizzard shells and basking sharks. Next is the suckers. Suckers are those which suck in mud or food-containing material to obtain their food. Sometimes, food items are separated from the sediments before being swallowed. Although in some catfishes, food is indigested together with bottom deposits. Thus, sucking into the mouth is often practiced by bottom-feeding fishes such as sturgeons and chub suckers. And lastly, for the feeding behavior of the fishes are the parasites. Parasitism is the most unusual and highly evolved feeding habit. Examples include lampreys and hagfishes that suck body fluids from the host fish and after rasping a hole into the side of the body. Why we need to know and understand the breeding habit and feeding behavior. You need to know and understand this if you are planning in a polyculture system. In the next presentation, you will know why this is so much important in the polyculture system.
And now, moving forward on the topic on what we call polyculture. So, what is polyculture? Polyculture, this is the type of aquaculture that involves the stocking of more than one species of fish in the same rearing facility at a given time. The concept of polyculture of fish is based on the concept of total utilization of different trophic and spatial niches of a pond in order to obtain maximum fish production per unit area. Different compatible species of fish of different trophic and spatial niches are raised together in the same pond to utilize all sorts of natural food available in the pond. And how polyculture works. Like undrainable pond is characterized by its diversified spatiotrophic environment comprising of various natural fish food organisms, phytoplankton, zooplanktons, periphyton, macrophytes, bentons, and detritus at different strata of pond water column as well as in the bottom. Selection of fish species in polyculture is thus very important. There should be a compatible combination of species with diversified feeding habit that should include planktivorous surface, column feeder to benthic, detrivorous bottom feeders as well as omnivorous to macrovegetation feeding fish species are addressed by food and agriculture organization. Like for example, we are culturing in a rearing facility of 4 species such as common carp, tilapia, shrimp, and crab. So, common carp was the planktivorous or column feeders which they are eating a natural foods, and the tilapia was need a supplemental feeds, and the shrimp and crab needs a complete feeds though crab is a bottom feeders or detrivorous. And another one, we know that algal blooming is common in most tropical manure-fed ponds. By stocking Phytoplanktopagus silver carp in appropriate density, certain algal blooming can be controlled. Grass carp, on the other hand, keep the macrophyte abundance under control due to its macrovegetation feeding habit, and it adds increased amount of partially digested excreta which becomes the feed for the bottom dweller Coprophagus common carp. The bottom dwelling migral common mirror carp help resuspension of bottom nutrients to water while steering the bottom mud in search of food. Such an exercise of bottom dwellers also aerates the bottom sediment. So the possibilities of increasing fish production per unit area through polyculture is considerable when compared with monoculture system of fish. Different species combination in polyculture system effectively contribute also to improve the pond environment.
So, in the estimating the correct amount to feed in fish, we have here the feed conversion ratio or FCR. It is also known as the feed conversion efficiency, which is one of the most important thing in a fish farm. So, ang feed conversion ratio is simply the amount of feed it takes to grow a kilogram of fish. So, kasi ang aquafeed, it covers a half of the total budget of the most of fish farmers. So, importante sa kanila na malaman yung ideal na feed or ideal performing feed for the most economical price. So, feed conversion ratio is important since ito yung major indicator of feed efficiency in fish farming at indicator din ito ng how efficient feeding strategy o kung gaano ka-epekto yung strategy sa pagpapakain ng isda. And lastly, it is indicator of fish health and performance. So we have here computation sa pag-estimate o pag-determine natin ng correct amount of feed sa ating isda. So we have here ABW or average body weight, DFR or daily feed ratio, and siyempre yung FCR or feed conversion ratio. So first, initially, we have here DFR of fish or araw-araw o pang-araw-araw na pag-estimate natin ng pagpapakain sa ating isda. But first, we have to determine the average body weight ng ating mga isda. So, para makuha yung average body weight ng ating isda, is kunin natin yung total weight nila at i-divide natin sa total na number nila. So, and then, para makuha din yung DFR, meron tayong tinatawag na feeding rate. So, ang FAO o yung Food and Agriculture Organization ay nagbigay ng recommended or nag-recommend ang feeding rate, which is 7%. So, para na sa DFR. So, ang DFR is equal to average body weight multiply to the feeding rate and multiply to the total number. So, example, sa isang pond ay meron kang 1,000 na tilapia at average sila ng 10 grams, siyempre maliliit. At ang recommended feeding rate is 7%. So, the DFR is 10 gram multiply to 0.7 or yung feeding rate na 7% at times natin sa total number nila is which is 1,000. So, ang total daily feed ratio natin sa ating mga isda is 700 grams or 700 grams of aqua feed should be given o ito yung 700 grams na dapat natin ibigay araw-araw sa ating mga isda sa 1,000 pieces na isda natin. So sa atin namang FCR o feed conversion ratio, ito kasing FCR natin is ginagamit natin sa harvest na ng ating isda para matukoy natin efficiency ng feed na ginamit. So, para makuha yung FCR, is i-divide natin yung total weight of feed in kilograms sa total net production o total harvest na ating mga isda. So, for example, meron tayong 300 kilograms of aqua feeds na ginamit at nakapag-produce tayo ng 300 kilograms of fish. So, ang lalabas na FCR is 1.16. So, meaning, 1.16 kilogram of aqua feed was used to para makapag-produce tayo ng 1 kilo ng isda. So, ayon naman sa National Freshwater Fisheries Technology Center, the closer the FCR to 1 kilogram, the better is the feed. So, while good feeds have FCR of between 1.5 to 2 kilograms. So, after natin makuha yung FCR, is meron pa rin tayong tinatawag na consideration in adjusting the ratio. So, mahalaga kasi ang adjusting natin ng feed ratio to be able to utilize the feeds properly and to avoid the economic loss o pagkalugi ng ating fish farmers. Kasi, ang ideal ratio ay nagbibigay siya ng best growth rates, uniform growth, and best FCR sa ating mga isda. So, alam na natin ng FCR o yung best FCR is closer to 1.0. So, adjusting the ratio serves to improve the feed efficiency. So, para ma-improve din natin yung efficacy ng ating mga feeds. So, kaya tayo dito, sa consideration adjusting ratio is rapid and positive consumption of feed by the fish. So, ito is to increase ingestion rates and ensure that aqua feeds do not remain for a long time in the water before they are consumed. Or otherwise, the feeds will fall apart, sayang naman, at yung nutrients ay malulusaw lang sa tubig. At ito ay magre-resulta sa wastage and reduce water quality. So, magkakaroon na natin ng pag hindi na consume mabuti yung ating feeds at nalusaw lang sa tubig, is magkakaroon na tayo ng pagkasayang or at mas malala is poor water quality. So, next is minimal metabolic energy spending associated with feeding. So, dito sa minimal metabolic energy spending, the fish should be fed the largest particle size it can consume. So, sa kanya bibig, kung ano yung magkaya sa kanya, is dapat niyo mapakain sa kanya. So, for example, adult fish should not, hindi dapat siya kakain ng mga darak or powdered feed, but rather with larger size aqua feeds. So, this allows the fish to utilize most of the energy they derive from the feed for growth rather than for obtaining the feed. When fish are fed particles that are too small, they end up spending a significant proportion of their energy trying to get enough food. Therefore, a 300 gram fish should be fed, o yung mga tumitimbang na 300 grams ng fish ay kailangan natin silang pakainin ng 5 mm na pellet at hindi yung mga maliliit. So, lastly, meron tayong tinatawag na sa consideration is yung ensuring the fish have equal access to the feed. So, lahat ng fish dapat nakakakain. So, sabi dito, when all fish have equal access to feed of good nutritional quality, uniform growth rates are achieved and better FCR are obtained. It is important to prevent a situation whereby only a few fish dominate the access to the feeding area. When only few fish dominate the feeding area, the fish that can get to the feed grow much larger and start predating upon the smaller fish. In such case, there will be a fewer jumper fish plus several small fish. So, magkakaroon tayo ng hindi pantay o mawawala yung uniform growth rate natin. So, consequently, overall, survival rates and FCR at harvest become negatively affected kung hindi nakakakain ng equal ng lahat ng ating isda. So, feeding frequency, it is the number of times fish in a pond are fed in a day. So, ang feeding frequency it affects the efficiency of the feed utilization. So, importante rin ito sa establishment at sa attainment ng best possible FCR and uniform sizes ng ating mga isda. So, meron tayong mga consideration in feeding frequency. So, first, small larval fish and fry or fingerlings have to be fed at high protein feeds frequently or even hourly, usually in excess as they have a higher energy demand. So kasi malilikot itong mga fingerlings natin or fry natin. So feeding small fish in excess is not as much as problem as overfeeding larger fish, because small fish require only a small amount of feed relative to the volume of water in the culture system. So next, for tilapia fish in the wild, they feed more or less continuously throughout the day. While naman sa ating culture, it is the best way to feed them manually for several times per day, or pwede natin pakainin yung mga tilapia natin sa culture ng 2 to 3 times. And then, sa culture naman in tilapia fry, okay, for example lang to, they have to be fed at least 4 times per day. Preferably, o mas maganda kung 8 times per day in daylight hours. So, ang sinabi nga natin kanina, ang mga tilapia in culture pa din, ang adult tilapia grows well on 2 to 3 times daily. Ayun. So, nalaman na natin yung importance ng adjusting the feed ratio at yung importance ng feeding frequency. Ngayon naman, i-determine natin yung importance ng feeding response. So, ang feeding response is, it enables the fish farmer to feed the fish based on their actual needs at each meal. So, ito, dahil dito, nalalaman natin o nababawasan natin ang sitwasyon ng overfeeding at underfeeding. Then next, it enables the farmers assess the number of fish in the pond and their growth on daily basis. Kasi malalaman natin na kompleto pa isda, o yung number ng isda is kompleto pa dahil sa response nila sa feeds, o yung response nila sa feeds ay inubos nila ito. So yun yung pinaka response nila sa feed o feeding response nila. So therefore, it also provides avenue for inventory control. So, nalalaman na nila kompleto pa yung kanilang inventory o yung kanilang isda dahil naubos nga nila, or yung response nila sa feeds is naubos. Okay? So, importantly, ang feeding response din ay tumutukoy sa nag-indicate ng fish well-being kung nakakakain pa, or dahil nga sa feeding response nila na naubos yung feeds, ibig sabihin, mataas yung well-being ng mga isda. So, ang feeding response depends on the suitability of the feed. So, dumidepende ang feeding response sa suitability of the feed, in which the feed's appearance, smell, texture, or feel and taste also influence the fish appetite. Kasi nga, di ba, parang sa tao, may pinipili din yung mga isda sa smell, sa appearance, at sa lasa, syempre. The more palatable the fish is, the better the feed response should be. So, yun. The more na may malasa o magandang pagkakahulma sa feeds, pagkaagawa sa feeds, is mas mataas yung response ng mga isda dito. Then next is culture water environment. This is the most important water quality parameters that affect feeding response in funds are water temperature and dissolved oxygen. So, nakaka-effect din sa feeding response ng mga isda is yung culture or yung water environment natin. Dahil nga, di sila makakakain kung pangit naman yung kanilang water environment, or halimbawa na lang sa dissolved oxygen, kung mababa yung dissolved oxygen, manghihina sila, di sila makakakain. So kasi the warmer the water and the more dissolved oxygen it has, the more active fish will be and the better their feed consumption and FCR. Then lastly, yung other stressor natin, kagaya na lang ng pollutants in water, other water quality variables, or like ammonia and pH, handling and social interaction also affect the fish appetite or fish response. When fish are stressed, their appetite drops quickly.
So that's all, and we hope you learned something from this topic and gained additional knowledge. And thank you for watching.